Hello, hello. Good morning. Let's. Well, I'm getting those little horns again. Time for a trim. Um, hello, hello. Good morning. Happy Saturday. Uh, eventually I'll put this away. The sun is shining. Temperature has been rocketing up this morning. It's up to 16 degrees Fahrenheit for those who think that that's warm. It's still pretty cold, but it's supposed to get up to the freezing point today, which, considering that on uh, Thursday it was minus 20 something. That's a that's a big jump. Um, jump of over 50 degrees in 2 days. So that's good. That's exciting. That'll take some of the stress off my furnace. It's been having a hard time keeping up when it's real super cold. Um, so today's project. Here, I'll pop over and show it off. Um, as you can see, we instant savings. Got some cinnamon rolls on their last day, and I ate two of them just as cinnamon rolls. But then the remaining two got very hard. Uh, it's a pretty hard. The other day I was looking at them and I was thinking, okay, well, what can I do with them? So I started cubing up one of them, and then realized this would make a good project for the show. So I stopped doing that, put them back in the tray, and then we're doing that today. The idea here is, what do you do with stale bread? Well, there's a lot of things to do with stale bread. Um, what do you do with stale bread that's already sweet, pre-sweetened, um, and pre-cinnamoned? So, bread pudding. Bread pudding's already a sweet, desserty thing. The cinnamon and the frosting will melt into it and give us this cinnamon. That's the idea. That's the concept. That's what we're working with. Um, and today, I'm probably going to make myself a little lunch while it's baking. But the main thing is, instead of having a second project to fill time while this is in the oven, uh, I'm going to pop us over to the other room for the baking time and get to work on Optimus Prime, I haven't made any progress on him since last we saw. Um, he's being reserved fully for you guys. Uh, I don't think we're going to finish him today because I'm not planning on putting in another 4 hours, but I guess we'll see when we get that far. Um, but first things first, cinnamon roll. Uh, if you're not familiar with a bread pudding, this is a pudding in the British sense, not the American sense. So this isn't like a jellied custard thing, although there's custard in it. Um, but this is more like a baked dessert set with custard. But we need to, and it's one of many, because back in the days of olden times, when you were making your own bread at home exclusively, or buying it daily from a baker, bread went stale very quickly, very easily. There was no modern day bread has a lot of anti-staling agents added to it, which is why you can buy a loaf of bread and keep it for a week, which is really why bread mold is so much more prominent now, because bread doesn't go super stale super fast. If your bread goes really stale really quickly, it actually doesn't get very moldy very easily because it's too dry. Um, but it's also not very nice to eat stale bread I'm going to get out a big bowl to put these cubes in as I go. I think I want to cut some of them in half. The long way, or the tall way. So you'll find a lot of recipes that utilize stale bread, often by adding liquid to it, or sometimes by drying it out even more. French toast, bread pudding, croutons, breadcrumbs. These are all things born of the fact that there was often just a lot of stale bread around that you had to do something with, otherwise it would be a waste. Okay, you can't see me shoveling it into the bowl here, but we're shoveling it into the bowl here. When I make my own loaves of bread, I don't put any conditioners in them because it's more difficult to do that than to just make simple bread. But that does mean that they tend to go pretty stale. Got the larger pieces to break them into more cube shape. And stale bread and dry bread are not the same thing. So when you bake bread, really, cinnamony, really, not just when you bake bread, but when you cook starches, they gelatinize, and that's what gives us a lot of properties. It's what makes a roux a thickening agent. The starches in the flour have gelled, and then the gel gets into the liquid, whatever you're adding it to, and it makes it thick. And if you add enough of it, it actually makes it solid. It also is what gives us the tenderness in breads and like pastas, rice, any of these cooked starch things. But Saizan, you're first. I'm talking about gelatinizing starches. Good morning. What was I saying? Gelatinizing starches. So staling is the starches basically going back. The starches start to recrystallize and become hard. That's why if you make rice and the day you make it, it's all nice and fluffy and tender. If you let it sit overnight, it starts to become, it doesn't dry out, but it starts to get that stiff staleness to it. That's the starches that had softened up in the cooking, re-hardening themselves just by resting. We're making a custard to go with this. I have a recipe up from Bake It With Love that I will be cutting into a quarter because this uses 8 cinnamon rolls. So we need to get out our ingredients. These are all pretty basic things as well. Cream, eggs, butter, sugar, this wants For 8 cinnamon rolls, it wants 3 eggs and 2 egg yolks. So I think I'm going to go with 1 egg and call it good enough. Real vanilla extract or potentially imitation. This is one of those situations where I think imitation is probably good enough. And I will discuss that in a moment. And it wants cinnamon to add to this. I'm not sure I want to add more cinnamon. I kind of want to add some Acres chocolate to make this chocolate cinnamon. Because I feel like we have enough cinnamon. Or, I could add some of my whole cinnamon, which is all the way in the back because I don't use it very often. But good morning. How's your morning? Here, little cinnamon stick. Mine's going pretty okay. You may be able to catch glimpses. My abrasions are having a hard time. I think it's because the air is so dry. The skin is really dried out and it's slowing down the healing. But they don't really hurt. I just have things on them so I don't brush against them and open them up. I've also got to figure out what container I want to cook this in because I'm not doing this in a 2-quart baking dish. Aha! I woke up 2.5 hours ago. And I had coffee, and now I'm having this. I haven't had anything else. I'm a little hungry, actually, having been up that long. The custard's going to be too runny to use my spring form, but the spring form is just the right size. This guy is just the right size, I think. Well, he might be actually a little bit too small. We have quite a bit of cinnamon roll. This guy's going to be too long. But that might be our best bet. Loaf pan might be our best bet. I don't have a full service kitchen with all of the various sizes of everything that you would need. Ooh, how about... Ooh, that might work. That might work. I think I'm going to make this pie size. I think I don't have enough... I don't think this volume is enough for my casserole dish. But I think this pie plate should work. We can take a look at the casserole dish. I don't want to get things dirty by putting the cinnamon roll chunks in anything until I'm ready for them. Well, I mean, it wouldn't fill it all the way to the top, but it probably would. Maybe. We have to do this now because I have to decide what container I want to put it in before I start adding stuff. Oh, the big Pyrex still has beans in it. Bookwoman, welcome in. I think the pie plate is going to be just the right size because then we can actually fill it instead of having it be, because we could put it in here and then just let it be underfilled. That's always an option. You don't have to fill it all the way to the top to make things work. So it's between these two. I think it will fill up the pie plate. Or Whereas this guy would just be the advantages of having it glass. Um, um, I'm going with the pie plate. I've decided I'm going with the pie plate. I'm not sure if it will puff up. I'm uncertain if it will puff up. It's going to have beaten egg in it, so potentially it could swell up, but I think it's supposed to not do that a lot. Let's see if I can find pictures of it. See, this recipe I'm using a recipe from Make It With Love. It doesn't look like it puffs up at all based on their pictures. But they don't have a lot of process pictures here to work with. Just end result shots, which are nice, but they give me the impression that it doesn't puff up much. Yes, it's going to be there's custard in this. It's bread. The ingredients here are cinnamon rolls, butter, cream, sugar, eggs, egg yolks, vanilla, more cinnamon, and more sugar. If you take out the cinnamon rolls, that's the ingredients of custard. So we're making a custard and pouring it over some cubed up bread and baking it solid. So it's a baked custard with bread in it. Is essentially what a bread pudding is. I like the pie pan. I think we'll get a visually more appealing result. I think the casserole dish would work, but I think we will get a visually better result using the pie pan. And since this is a show, we're going to do the show way. I'm also adding chocolate to it. I don't know if that's going to mess it up, but I'm definitely adding chocolate to it. We're also going to preheat my oven, which I haven't started doing yet. So oven to 350, make sure there's nothing in it. The number of times I've put the oven on to preheat and then found that I had left something in there. And now I've got a blazing hot empty pan that I need to figure out what to do with. Okay, let's roll up the sleeves here before we get goop all over ourselves. Oh, actually, there's a note. Do not compactly fill the dish or fill to the very top edge of your dish. The bread will expand. You do not want your bread pudding overflowing. Okay. Okay. There's a specific note in the instructions about that. Given that note, I'm changing my mind. And we're selecting a vessel that has... We're going with the casserole dish. Because the casserole dish will give us some breathing room in the event that it does puff up. Okay. And that's why, if you're following a recipe, you should read the damn recipe. So we need to butter this. I suppose you don't have to use butter for this step. You could use any mostly solid at room temperature oil. The point here is that you need a grease layer that's going to stick to the dish so that the rest of this thing does not stick to the dish. Mm. Buttery. Who'da thunk? Okay. It said don't pack them tightly. So we won't. We will have them be semi-loose and approximately even. You're never going to get this even because it's a pile of cubes. I'm sure there's a physicist or an engineer who can tell me all about cuboid object packing, but just instinctually I can say you're never going to get this even because it's a pile of cubes. Set this aside because we add things to it. So I will just set it over on the table. We need, see, I'm cutting that recipe into quarters. So I need 2 tablespoons of butter, melted but not hot. I can do that. Where did I put my, oh. Got rid of the cutting board. Why did I get rid of the cutting board? Let's see. There's markers on it, but I've rolled this one back, so it's about that much, about that much. So it's about half of what we got here. Okay. Well, I love butter. If it wasn't so bad for me, I could just eat butter. I mean, I could still just eat butter, but it's really bad for me, so I shouldn't do that. Okay, we're going to go around the corner. Give that a microwaving. You should always microwave butter in short bursts, and ideally have it cubed up like I just did. Because because there is a little bit of water in butter. And if the water element turns to steam in an enclosed space, such as inside a block of butter, it will pop. And if your butter is partially melted, it will spray molten butter all over the inside of your microwave. If your butter is frozen, it's even more prone to doing that. So, 30 seconds has gotten us this far, and I think I'm going to let residual heat take care of the remainder so that we have warm, but not hot, melted butter. Because we're adding eggs to this, so we don't want it, that's why it's, be sure that it's melted but not hot, or you'll end up with scrambled eggs, which can be tasty. Butter and scrambled eggs is definitely a classic combo. But you don't really want scrambled eggs if you're making a sweet custard. While that's sort of finishing itself off, we will get a larger bowl. Is that going to be big enough? hedge my bets and go one size up from there. Since I'm going to have to beat this. We're making this rich too, so I'm going with heavy cream. 3 cups of heavy cream, so 3/4 of a cup of heavy cream. If I'm quartering my recipe, which I am. Three-quarters of a cup of heavy cream, to which we are adding more butter fat. So again, certainly not a diet recipe. Certainly an indulgent recipe. I'm going to give that 5 more seconds. Because there's still little lumps and I feel like it's equalized. Okay. Should have given it 35 seconds to start with. 3/4 cup of heavy cream. An egg. So if I were to follow the recipe exactly, it would be 3/4 of an egg and 1/2 of an egg yolk. Which is why I'm just going to throw in 1 egg and say, that's probably close enough. Get off of there. Get off of there, egg white. There you go. String the egg white off before they fall on the floor. I'll put my remaining eggs away. So vanilla. Now, as always, as all these recipes do, it calls for real vanilla extract. I've discussed this before, I think. Real vanilla extract is a lot more expensive than artificial vanilla extract, and it does taste better. But if vanilla is not your main event in a dish, I'm unconvinced that it is worth the expense to use real vanilla versus imitation. Because you're not going to be picking up on all of the complexities of real vanilla if it's in a recipe with a whole bunch of other stuff. This recipe is a custard to which that already has cinnamon and sugar in it, to which I'm also adding chocolate. So I'm willing to say imitation will be good enough. This has been my TED Talk. Thank you all for attending. Because this 2-ounce bottle of vanilla extract cost me $6. This 8-ounce bottle of imitation vanilla cost me $2. So judge for yourself. I mean, if you're a purist, you should be using a whole vanilla pod and scraping out some of the paste and putting it in there. That would be even more costly. But vanilla is one of those things. If it's your main event, I agree that it's worth investing more. But if it's just in there with a bunch of other stuff, I don't think it's worth it. We're adding, now this would be 1/8 of a teaspoon of cinnamon, but I'm going to grate my own cinnamon directly into this. Oh, Sophisma. I'm sorry. I'm going to not butcher your name. But I'll give you thanks. Thanks for subscribing with Prime. Oh, and just in time because there's an ad coming up in a minute. I've finally figured out how to add the ad tracker to my panel so that I can see when one's coming up. So that I don't do anything spectacular right when an ad is playing and ruin it for everyone. If you'd like me to refer to you as a nickname, let me know. But welcome in. You are in time for everything. I haven't really accomplished anything yet. We're still in the getting rolling phases here. But thanks for the subscribe. If you're not aware, if you're viewing and you're not aware, your Amazon Prime membership comes with a free subscription to any Twitch channel of your choice. You don't have to use it here, but you may as well use it somewhere. You've already paid for it. I lost train of thought. Events. Oh god, and I haven't got my alert set up yet. I only just yesterday figured out how to make Prime sub alerts happen, and I haven't actually gone through the trouble of doing it. So imagine Megatron says Prime, because that's the sound clip I'm going to use for it. What was I saying? Okay, back to my recipe. Sugar, vanilla, cinnamon. The sugar is the only remaining ingredient. I need a 1/16 of a cup of sugar. So I need 1 tablespoon of sugar. That's not a lot of sugar. Oops. Oh. And then this needs to be, oh, and our butter. Can't forget the butter. And then this needs to be beaten together, but not too aggressively, until it's nice and smooth. So we will get a full-size whisk because this is a little bit too much for tiny whisk. And our butter did pretty much immediately solidify in the cold cream, but should have been whisking it actively when I put the butter in. Okay. Here's our custard. Whisk wants to roll away. We retrieve our cinnamon roll cubes. Do I want to do this? No, I want to add the chocolate before I add the custard. So I've got half a bar of classic old bittersweet baker's chocolate, which itself breaks pretty easily along the perforations, but then we need it in little chunks. And I'm going to put it, it's going to melt in as it's baking. So we're going to put it on the top layer here, not stir it through. And then I'm going to put the custard over the top of it. I'm only doing that much. I'm not going to do the whole thing. I don't think I've ever had chocolate bread pudding, but that's what we're doing. And I know I just said I'm not going to start in, but I am going to push it around a little bit. And get these chocolate crumbs in there. Okay. And a silicone scraper to make sure I'm not losing any of this. Drizzle it in. So that it's everywhere. Boy, the butter really entirely did just kind of turn into little butter lumps, didn't it? Oh well. Oh well. Okay, it doesn't look super great at this stage, but it's gonna after we bake it. Oh, this is supposed to rest in the custard now for 30 minutes and then bake for 30 minutes. So that's probably a good time for us to do a transfer to the other room while this sort of rests and softens up. Although I did mention I have not had my own breakfast yet. So before I do that, I'm going to make myself something real quick. We'll put this over near the oven. Gonna make myself something real quick to nosh on, and then we can do the transfer. And maybe, depending how long this takes, we can get it in the oven and then swap over. What should I eat? Because bread pudding's good, but it's not a meal, it's a dessert. Think about what I have. Oop, and we gotta moisten, and I didn't even get a glass of water for myself. Hold on, gotta run and grab my water glass. And to bring it back. Uh, thank you for the moisten. Moist. What have I got is the thing. You know, I posted a picture yesterday of Korean Army base stew that I kind of made my way. I think we might make a variation on that. I think we might go for a variation on that real quick. And actually, if we're careful with it, I think we can avoid a bunch of extra meat. Because the default version of it has a lot of preserved canned meats in it because it's based on what was found at the abandoned American Army bases in Korea, which was a lot of spam and canned sausages and processed cheese and all this garbage that they then had to combine with local ingredients and make something delicious out of. But I bet you I can make something with just one protein component and make it pretty good. Okay, yeah. It's gonna be quick. It's not gonna have to cook super long. Everything should be pre-cooked. We can actually make a breakfasty twist on it. Okay, interesting. I'm not gonna push over to the stove yet because we're gonna chop ingredients real quick. Let's see. I need a small onion and some garlic. And some garlic. These guys. Tofu. Spam. And we can finish off that as well. Okay. I need a scraps bowl because we're about to produce a bunch of scraps. So there's going to be egg in this as well. Where's my marinated egg? These guys right here. Marinated soy sauce eggs. Homemade. Just stuck a couple of hard-boiled eggs in a jar with some soy sauce. The salt preserves them and flavors them. It also makes them turn very brown. And also my garlic is trying to sprout, even though it has been very cold in my cupboard. So I guess we're making sort of a hybrid of a... We're making a hybrid of the... oh, I forgot the name of it already. I had to look up the Korean name for it because I couldn't remember it off the top of my head. And I can't remember it now. So I'll keep calling it Army Base Stew. So we're making some kind of a hybrid of Army Base Stew and like a breakfast scramble. hash, not a scramble. I haven't actually done this for a while. Grating your garlic. If you're adding garlic to a dish, I suggest adding it first, or grating it up first. Either mincing it or mashing it or crushing it or whatever you're doing with it. Do it first and let it rest before you add it to your finished, or to your to the heat. It will develop its garlicky flavors. I need my small scraper that's got custard on it. Because the chemicals in the garlic that form that flavor are not heat stable. And they're only expressed when the cells are crushed up. I'm going to mince up the little sprout. No sense in letting the little sprout guy go to waste. Throw him right in there. And then that whole thing is just going to rest until I need to add it. Then we're going to start with an onion, which I'm using a paring knife, which is not recommended. You should use a large knife. But the paring knife's already here and already dirty, so I'm carrying on with it against my own recommendation of don't cut an onion with a paring knife. My water's boiling. The water's boiling for noodles. We're gonna just do an instant packaged noodle. One of the easiest things in the world. You rip it open, you take the flavor out, you don't use the flavor. And you boil it for 3 minutes and then it's noodles. If you are purchasing instant ramen with the intent of not using the flavors, get the cheapest available. The noodles are just as good. If, on the other hand, you want to explore the really surprisingly good flavors of a lot of the instant noodle packs, go for it. For a long time I thought, oh, all instant ramen is just as dull as the lowest common denominator brand. Not true, not true. The science behind those things has really gone places. And I feel like I should do like reviews of instant noodles. That could be fun as we explore what the heck I can do with content for this channel. A little bit of oil on the stove, and we are going to pop over there. So, dribble of oil. You know, I just realized just now that the person who subscribed a little bit ago didn't say anything. So maybe they want to be a lurker. And I was just so excited by the sub that I started saying their name. I apologize for that. I don't call out the names of follows, and I shouldn't be calling out the names of subs unless they make themselves known in in the chat. I understand the desire for some anonymous watching before you jump in. I've done that myself a few times. We're going to take out one of these dried whole shiitake mushrooms, and I'm just going to literally break it up dry right into our pan. And a couple of fresh mushrooms as well, which need a little bit of a washing. These are some of the dirtiest and stemmiest mushrooms, like button mushrooms, I think I've ever had. They've got so much stem, I'm going to have to cut the stems off and add them separately. The stem part of a mushroom is slightly tougher, more fibrous than the cap part. So if your mushrooms have big stems, it might be wise to lop the stem off, ice it up, and throw it in just a little bit before you throw in the rest of it. Give it a chance to soften up. So we're doing that. Also, yes, I just washed my mushrooms with water. Don't care about the debate about whether or not you should wash mushrooms with water or clean them with a tiny brush or peel them. Some people peel them. I suppose if I was using super fancy, expensive mushrooms, I would go through the trouble of cleaning them in a very, very careful way. But these are white button mushrooms. So, not really concerned about them. Okay. Throw our stems in there. Now, you know what? I'm not going to go with the spam. We're gonna cut the spam. We will revisit that a different time. Stick with veggies today. All right, I know I'm slicing over here where nobody can see me, but we're just cutting up mushroom caps. And not being very careful about it and running right up against my fingers where I'm at risk of slicing open my fingers. Okay. And a spatula to push stuff around. And since I'm not adding any of the salted meat things, I'm going to add some just salt to all of this to get it to express some of its moisture. Question for those of you viewing. Can you see an alert that there's an ad coming up? I can, and I tried to set it so that viewers could as well, but I'm not sure if that's what that setting meant. And if you're a subscriber, you might not be able to see it at all. That's always a possibility. Okay, our noodles are definitely boiled, so we're going to go ahead and get them stopped cooking. If you're subscribed, you should see no ads ever. That's the deal. Ads are for people who have not subscribed. It seems a bit rude to ask people to pay for a subscription and then also hit them with ads. That's like the opposite. Put these mushrooms away. I've also been looking. We'll have to review it in after the next month's analytics come out. But I'm also thinking that since I'm such a small time still, even though Twitch is really pushing creators to run the ads, I'm not getting a ton of looks at the ads, and I'm worried it might scare off viewers who are just trying the channel out. Speaking of ads, there's one in now. Ad starting. It's a terrifying balancing act, but you have to do it. You have to run periodic ads if you want to disable pre-roll ads. And since I want people to be able to show up and see what's going on without having to sit through an ad, that's why I've got my ads. I had avoided enabling the ads, but Twitch won't let you just say no ads at all. If you don't run ads if you don't set up a schedule and run ads on some kind of a schedule, ad in progress, they will simply run them at the as a pre-roll whenever someone enters the stream, giving you no control over it. So the only way I can have control over it is if I set a schedule and run a schedule. They've promised that they're making changes to the system soon, TM. So maybe that could change up. Once upon a time, there used to be an option to just not run ads, but that has gone away. So here we are. This is where we are. I have added tofu to my hash. And our ad is over. So I'm going to need that board again later. I would hazard it's probably time to put our bread pudding in the oven because I've been sort of scrambling about now, doing other things. I'm going to start adding spices to the, as you can see by the bag, this is gochugaru. This is a Korean chili flake. We're going to add a good amount of that. This is going to be spicy. We're making this Korean style, by which I'm putting Korean spices in it. This is hondashi granules. This is another Korean spice element. I don't know if you can read it. I certainly can't. This is gochujang. Which we are adding a dollop of. I don't know if you remember. I mentioned about when I when I opened this specific tub on stream, I mentioned that I was going to treat it differently and see if I could prevent it from drying out. And I can say, at this stage, it has worked. Leaving the plastic wrap halfway on, and then sealing that plastic wrap down using the plastic lid, has indeed worked, and my gochujang has not dried out. Adding a little bit of water to get the gochujang to dissolve, but not too much water because I want to cook it off because I'm not making a soup. I'm making like a scrambly stew thing. And let me tell you, since it's not drying out, it's so much easier to use, and I find myself using it more. Reaching for it and not being like disheartened when I find it all like gummy and dried out. Splash of soy sauce. And the special ingredient, which was the thing that inspired me to do it yesterday, baked beans. These are my own homemade baked beans. I used a veggie recipe, so there's no bacon in them, although your traditional American-style baked beans are made with bacon. So that's another canned item from the army bases, and another salty, savory meat item. Why did I use? Oh, because it was the garlic scraping spatula. Used the wrong spatula, but it's fine because it wasn't being used for anything else. We throw our baked beans, which is going to bring a very different flavor element to this whole thing, because they are sweet and savory and beany. So this is definitely not Korean Army base stew. For one thing, it's not a stew. The other thing, other than maybe a little bit of fish, I'd have to actually check if there's fish in the hondashi. Is there actual fish in this hondashi? Yes, contains bonito. So other than that, I haven't added any meat to this thing. Also, haven't added any cabbage or kimchi. Oops. Oh, I forgot. I was going to save the rootlet there. Oh well, I guess that one's a sacrifice. Some of my green onions, you'll recall that I've been using green onions out of my front window because I've been regrowing them from... Oh, okay. We're definitely at the stage where I need to put the custard in, so I'm going to put that in right now. We're going to put that in right now and set a timer. Oh. Google. Okay. Okay. I was regrowing the green onion bottoms from store-bought green onions and just using the tops as they resprouted as my green onions. Well, it's been winter and there hasn't been a ton of sun. So my green onions aren't dead, but they're not producing very fast. The production rate has slowed down there. So, to avoid stressing them and killing them, I picked up some new green onions for the first time all winter. But I wanted to save the roots and do the same thing with them, replant them. I just forgot to do that with this one just now. Okay, that's actually pretty good timing because this is just about ready to come out. And I am going to throw an egg on there. Take the heat off. Pop over to the countertop. There's one egg out of my soy sauce egg bath. It wasn't peeled very neatly, so it's got little nicks all over it. That just means the soy sauce has penetrated deeply into the innards of the egg. So let's... Ugh. And of course it breaks because it's got little nicks in it. That's fine. I wasn't planning on it being nice, perfect slices. I was planning on it being a kind of a chunked dice anyways. I'm not just saying that because that's what I ended up with. Okay, we'll take that, add it to our mix. It's already cooked. I don't want to overcook the egg, so I'm throwing it in now at the end just so that it can warm up with everything. Now we don't need the board. Give the whole shebang a quick tossy toss. Bring it back. We've already plated the noodles. We just put this stuff on top. In kind of a mound because it's a little bit too big for this dish. Dash of sesame seed. Couple of grinds of black pepper. And voila! One of the great parts about this is, first of all, it's super customizable. There's a traditional version, which has canned hot dogs and Spam and all that stuff in it. But it's super customizable with just what you've got. You could sub out pretty much any ingredient in this. The beans are probably the one thing that's sort of iconic to it. And then you can serve it over noodles or rice. We're bringing it to the room. We're actually going to bring everything to the other room. So you'll still hear me, but we're going to go on a BRB. And haul anchor, get this thing over the other room, because while our bread pudding is baking and then later when it's cooling, we can be Legoing. You know what? I'm going to since I'm not doing anything, you can't see anything, and I'm just sort of chit-chatting. While I'm doing the transfer, I'm going to run another ad real quick. That will put off the next scheduled ad by a big chunk of time. Which is, again, why I need to have a scheduled ad, because then it gives you controls like run an ad now so that you don't have to run one later. Something that's not available if you're not running ads. And we will try to do this without interrupting the signal this time. Oh, shoot, I'm plugged in. I forgot that the computer was plugged in. Oh, I do have another food item. Well, we can do that over at the table. No reason I can't. I picked up a weird fruit, as you do, and wanted to give it a try. Okay, get that there. We got some slack on the line. Okay. Slightly awkward transfer, complete. Hopefully I didn't interrupt the signal this time. I will bring back, I will undo my apron. We don't need the apron for this part. We're past the potential messes. And we will return. Hello. We are in this room now. Let me check. Yeah, didn't interrupt it at all. Perfect. I do need to pop. Hopefully this thing doesn't freak out. This camera is very unstable, and it is the first one I'm going to replace when we get that far. So, welcome back. Welcome back. As you can see, we have Optimus Prime. He's in progress. I don't think we're going to get through him all today. But also, I remembered after I started transferring, this thing. This is a weird fruit that I picked up. This is an ugly fruit that I have never tried ugly fruit before. So we're going to give this a go. We're going to find out what it looks like inside. I need a cutting surface and a knife. Oh, and also, y'all still with me? Let's see, ugly fruit. Looks like you just cut them in half. So let's find out what they look like. Now, I already know in advance it's a citrus. And this one was very yellow, so I assumed that this one was more ripe. But a lot of them were green. It's very juicy. Huh. Let me get a spoon. Let me get a spoon and see if we can't treat this thing like a grapefruit. Oh, also, there's the spoon. I should take a quick snap of my other dish before we dive in on that. Come on. Okay, good enough. Almost the same as the one I had yesterday. Set that to the side. I'm going to tell you about ugly fruit because I think they're in season right now. Citrus that's grown in the southern hemisphere comes in season January, February time. I'm pretty sure that's what we've got here is South American citrus. Very juicy. Hmm. Hmm. It's a lot like an orange. It's like a mild orange. It's sweet, not sour at all. That's what it is. It's like an orange without any of the sourness to it. It's just the sweetness of an orange. Interesting. I'd eat that. I don't know if I'd go out of my way for it. It tastes like an orange, but with no sharpness. None of that citrus sharp bite to it. I don't think I want to eat it right now, but I'm going to hang on to it, and I'll have it as a snack sometime this afternoon. Okay. Almost forgot about that thing, and then didn't. Set that back over there. Get out an eating tool for my lunch. Yeah, it's a little bit odd. It's also flat on one side. I don't know if you saw when I set it down. It was very much flat on the bottom. It just sits flat. Here's the lunch. Hopefully this camera doesn't go nuts on us. Let's give this a taste, talk about it a little bit, and then dive in on step 6 of Optimus. Mmm. Well, that's very hearty. Well, that's very hearty. And deeply savory. Mmm. You'd never know there's no meat in that. Between the various fermented things that are in it and the rich sort of dark flavor of the beans and the mushrooms, it's really it's good, deep, savory flavor. Mmm. That's good. Okay. It all comes together. The beans are actually fairly prominent. Okay. I gotta check keep an eye on my timer here. Okay. We've got time, a bit of time at least. We were on page, we just completed that. No, we just completed that. There. We were on page 77 last time. Right at the start of bag number 6. So let's dive in. Move Optimus. Now I'm pretty sure we're just going to build stuff and then add it to him, so he can be to the side while I do this. Get all of my bags out. We're building times 2. We're building 2 feet. Does it want me to literally build them identically to each other? Yes, it does. It literally just says do the whole thing times 2. So, okay, I guess we're going to build the whole thing times 2, and that's his feet. Which means in a literal sense, this section has twice as many steps as it looks like it has, because we're doing the whole thing twice. And we're building the tiniest little things to start with, all one by one pieces. I would have expected this part to be mirror images, but I guess the feet are just identical, and the leg is what makes it a mirror image. The leg does all the work in making this an opposite. Interesting. Oop. And also backwards. I think I want to rotate that one. There's a little blemish on one of these pieces, and I want the little blemish to be enclosed when we have the finished item. Oh. I never really did a lot of Technic. And some of these parts now that we have are Technic parts. These a little bit of glare from our windows. And we can't forget our delicious, hearty brunch. I should have made rice. Noodles are just so fast, but I should have made rice for this. It would be easier to eat. The noodles are kind of springy. Okay, a little weird piece. A lot of pieces I'm not familiar with in this specific part. No doubt because the legs are, or the feet are articulated, so he can be posed. So we need all these little technical bits and bobs in order to make the posable feet. Function. I don't think we have any decals for this section, so that's good. I don't have to worry about screwing up a decal right at the final moment here. Oh, interesting. Again, these are parts I've never seen before. Little pivots and end cappers and you know, Technic stuff. What are these orange things supposed to be? I wonder if they'll be fully disappeared when the finished thing is finished. I would imagine that that's the goal. Ooh, and these don't even really connect. They just kind of rest in there. Interesting. Interesting. And then we're enclosing it and we're pinning them in. We're pinning them in by doing the same thing on the opposite side. So they're just sandwiched between these bar pieces. To keep them in place, but they're not actually connected on either side. They're just kind of resting in there and then pinned. Interesting. Well, once we get done with this, we can stand the guy up and he'll actually fully stand instead of being really weirdly unstable. Okay. Okay. We're also using up all of the little 1x1s right away, which I kind of like because then I don't have a risk of losing them down the line as we get further into the build. Well, I'm definitely a lot less chatty when I get over here to the Lego side. I hope that's okay. I try to sort of be conscious of it and keep up chatter, but I super noticed it. Okay. These are definitely the hinges that fit into the actual feet. Because these little grabbers line up with the two little balls. Well, I should keep this side open and see if my camera's freaking out. Here's an issue. In this room, I've only got one screen, so I can't have all my panels visible at all times. So we have to tab back and forth to see stuff. Which wouldn't be a problem, except that I've got a timer running for the oven. Oh, glare from our nice big windows makes it hard to read parts of this instructions. So, I have plans later today, but what's anyone's plans for the weekend? I'll be going to a belated Groundhog Day party, since Groundhog Day was awkwardly in the middle of the week. Which was nice by me, because usually the holiday bumps up against my birthday, and I have to fight with fight with it for precedence, which wasn't a problem growing up, but currently my life includes Groundhog Day enthusiasts who, boy, they love their Groundhog Day. I kind of understand how kids who had Christmas birthdays feel, or I suppose birthdays bumped up against any holiday. Where you gotta compete with a much larger thing for what most people just have as their no fuss. Ooh, cool. We're making Optimus Prime's tail lights. Which are on his feet, of course, because when he's in truck mode, his feet are the back of the truck, or the back of the hitch. So of course the taillights have to be back there. He will, when we are done, actually transform between robot mode and truck mode. This is not just for show. He is a functional transformer, or at least he's promised to be. How do I attach that to that? Oh, I see what I did. I can't attach those yet because these side pieces have to connect. Right. Legos have gotten really cool. The first transforming Lego I ran across was the Mario question block, which is just a big yellow cube with question marks on it, but it unfolds, and inside are miniaturized levels from Super Mario 64. And that got me, because I hadn't looked at Lego in ages, and I saw that one. I actually saw it here on Twitch. I saw Barry is streaming make that specific Lego, and I was just, oop, there's our timer. And I was just amazed by how complex Legos had become. Okay, the feet. They already look like his feet. Oh yeah. I'm gonna let that sit for just the time it takes me to finish this here. Not the next step, which is his hips. Just as long as it takes to get his feet on, which should not be much time at all. But yeah, if you haven't looked at Legos lately, they're oh, I see what this is. They're a lot more complicated, but they're a lot more like interesting too. There's a lot more to Legos because they're making them now specifically to be marketed to. Oh, that piece doesn't go there. That's why I don't have an extra. To be marketed to adults. So they're more complicated. They have more steps in them. But also, because they're making them really quite complicated, they can do some really cool things with them that weren't really an option when they were trying to keep them simple children's things, such as really complex inner workings that enable things like transformation. He's even got these little orange cappers. They're not made of the standard Lego plastic. They're made of a soft rubber, and I'm pretty sure that they are traction grips for his feet, so that when you stand him up and pose him, he doesn't, his feet don't slide. And yeah, I push all of this stuff to the side. That is his feet. And then they click on to the bottoms, and then he can stand. Ta-da! Behold, he stand. Okay, now our timer did beep, so I am going to put the pieces we have in this bag to get them out of the way. Move Optimus and move. I'm not transferring the camera back, or the PC back into the kitchen. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get a hot plate, a hot pad, and bring the pudding in here. But that means that I'm going to ooh, we almost lost one. That means we're going to move all of this away. I don't want to get pudding on my Optimus. So, slap down one of those. Silicone trivet. It certainly smells like we've been baking something in here. Let's hope we didn't burn it. Doesn't smell burned. Oh my. Oh my. So oven off. I gotta say, it doesn't look a ton different than when we started, except that it's bubbling. It's squishy set with these crusty, hard bits poking out the top. And I'm supposed to poke the middle with a toothpick to see if it comes out clean. Now, it was in there an extra several minutes, but we will give it the test. We will give it the toothpick test anyways. What we're looking for is that the custard is not still gooey. And that's not like, that's clean. It's coming out clean does not mean coming out totally spotless. It means that when you poke it in there, you don't end up with a gob on your toothpick. It slides back out, which we got. So now this has to rest for 15 minutes before we can get into it. So I will do that. Set it over here. Do I think Legos become more sophisticated because more adults build them? I think that because I think that the Lego company has realized that they had a lot of loyal fans, customers, who were started out as kids, and as they have grown up, they have wanted to keep. Oh, my autofocus is doing that thing. They have wanted to stay in Legos, but they're no longer mentally engaged. I think that what we have now is Legos are. I'm sure some people are coming into Lego now specifically because it's more complex. But why? Stop autofocusing. Stop autofocusing. I think a large portion of the driver here is that it's people who want to still be in with be in Legos, who want to still do Legos, but have simply outgrown the ones that are aimed at children. And the Lego company has not squandered that market space and has been producing Legos for more complex Legos for an older audience. I think it's a, and then because they are now a little bit more sophisticated and complex, I do think that is a factor in attracting adults. So I think it's both. I think it goes both ways. I certainly was drawn back in when I saw the that Mario Lego and how incredibly detailed and complex it was. I had not thought of Legos in a long time. Aside from remembering my old Legos, and the fact that I saw that, oh, that's interesting. How things have evolved. It got me looking at them more and more. I went back to they're still in the toy aisle. If I go to a Walmart, they still have them in the toy aisle, but even there they've separated them. So they're next to each other, but they're not just mixed in. Yeah, I don't know if that answers your question, but because it was kind of rambly. But I just rambled an answer to your question. Okay. This is another thing where it's just the same instruction but twice because we're building two of these. These are Optimus's fuel tanks. As a transformer, he does not require gasoline. He runs on energon, but the truck that he transforms into has fuel tanks. So if he intends to blend in, he has to imitate the whole thing. These parts don't transform. This is just a little static thing that's stuck to his knees. Stuck onto the sides of his knees. For aesthetics. And interestingly, well, first of all, we have, once again, two extra pieces. There they are. Keeping all the extra pieces in their own little plastic bag. They thoughtfully give you an extra of every one of these little itty-bitty pieces, just in case you lose one. And there's a lot of itty-bitty pieces, so we're getting a little bag collecting them. Interestingly here, these parts aren't supposed to move. They don't swivel, but they are not going to connect with both of those openings. There's just one peg on his legs. There's this little bracket that's going to prevent them from swiveling. Oh, they swivel that? Oh, they do swivel. I was wrong. They are going to swivel. Okay. That's the end of bag 6. Here, I'll preview what I just noticed. So when he's standing, in order to transform, he has to swivel his torso the other way, and then he bends here at the hip into his truck form. His feet fold under so that his taillights can poke out, and his fuel tanks go this way so that they're lateral with his truck bed. He's obviously not finished because his front is still looking pretty sparse. He's supposed to have a grill, and his arms and head aren't here either. But there you go. Such a clever set. And what we've done with the legs now, so he doesn't bend at the knees, but his feet can pivot. And since his knees can also pivot, or his hips can also pivot, you can pose him legs apart, which is how they have him on the front of the box, although the box is full of Legos. You could also pose him one leg out. So he's not going to be making super dynamic poses because he can't bend at the knees, but he can be posed to a degree. Once we get the rest of this stuff on his upper portion done, he won't spin like that either. Trying to think if we have enough time to get into bag 7. Bag 7 is his grill, and it has a decal on it. The grill is the part that prevents him from spinning freely, I think. Oh gosh, he's so cool. He's so cool. What's that? Oh, I'm looking at shoulder section. Autobot logos. Let's see. It's just about noon. I have my hearty, savory noodle brunch. And our bread pudding is out of the oven. So my options are either I keep going on the next step here, or I stop now and call it a day. I think, how much is in bag 7? I'm going to call that the day. We will come back again to revisit. I'm not just going to push forward on this. I'm gonna stick to my current schedule today, and I'm gonna stop nowish. I should open up a Twitch panel, a muted Twitch panel, and see what's going on around the interwebs. But snooze that ad. So yeah, I'm not gonna push it today. We'll come back to Optimus again later. I'll put him back in the box with the instructions and the bag. I'm going to wrap us up and take us off on a raid. And today, oh, why did I close that? Today, I'm taking us somewhere new. Are you muted? Yes, okay. Double check she's not about to end. double check that that's not playing audio through you guys. No, it's not. Dread. I assume you've been lurking. Yes, we're wrapping up. We're going to go raid Cookie. Who's currently playing Graveyard Keeper. Where's my raid button? Oh, Cookie doesn't. Um. Okay. This is a problem with Twitch itself. So Cookie's live right now, and I follow Cookie, so she should have shown up in my list. But the raid button only gives you the top 5 results, which causes people to not see smaller channels in the list, which is why big channels tend to raid into big channels, small channels tend to raid into big channels, and big channels tend to never raid into small channels. You have to know they're live and put them in manually if it's not one of the top 5 on your follows list. But we're raiding Cookie. She's currently playing Graveyard Keeper, which is a game I own and keep meaning to give a shot, a try. So maybe we'll do that someday. I've been enjoying Cookie streams lately. I only discovered her recently. So let's all go say hi to Cookie. And I will bring us back up here. See you next week, where we may finish Optimus, and we'll probably cook something. Those are the 2 things I do these days. See you next time. Bye.